Thomas Wayne as an older, slightly twisted version of Batman is without a doubt one of the coolest elements to have come out of the Flashpoint storyline. By far one of, if not the Flash's most iconic comic story, with it also serving as a catalyst for the New 52 reboot. It had a pretty good animated adaptation, and Reverse Flash's presence in that movie was so well known, the internet collectively gaslit themselves into thinking this was canon.
It was me, Barry. I jerked you off at super speed so it'd seem like you nutted at just a woman's touch!
You can't really blame this iteration of Batman for being as ruthless as he is, losing his son in Crime Alley instead of him and Martha. Bro, Thomas can't have nothing. His son was shot, the Amazons and Atlanteans caused a whole third world war, and his wife Martha became the Joker.
Yo, come on, man, I can't have shit in this house!
You can tell almost immediately there are 0 F's given with this version compared to Prime Earth Bruce Wayne Batman.
Judge Dent was kidnapped last night. Where did the Joker take him?
He's probably already dead.
Then so are you. You have 9 more fingers. I suggest you tell me how you found out about me.
Bruce took me here, showed me...
Mention my dead son again, and I will break out my surgical instruments.
Bruce reading the letter his father wrote for him from the Flashpoint timeline before it vanished is one of the top Batman moments of all time.
This is my father's handwriting. You're one hell of a messenger. Thank you.
Oh my God!
Could you imagine yourself in the writer's room full of the Warner Brothers executives on what to do for the first ever live-action theatrical Flash movie, having the chance to tell a compelling story surrounded by Barry Allen's mythos, have him fight off some of his rogues gallery, maybe even have some grand theme conveyed throughout the course of the film? I mean, at that point in time before the film had come out, the DCEU was in shambles, complete disgrace to the DC IP with garbage projects releasing left and right. Your first ever Justice League film that was supposed to be a culmination of the characters you've already established flops? Yeah, it's time to pack it up, buddy. GG. That is a lifetime fumble. For whatever reason, we gotta make this Flash movie a gigantic event film, but if only there was a character we could use for the marketing, it would essentially be our bread and butter to boost ticket sales. If only there was a character in which we could make an absurd amount of projects about said character in comparison to other heroes.
You forget, we have Batman.
You're goddamn right we do. Why don't we just make our first ever Flash movie in this universe a retelling of Flashpoint before delving into any of the hundreds of comic stories out there with Barry Allen as the center protagonist? Yeah, as soon as this mentality started to manifest in whatever pitch meeting there was, it was beyond Jover for this franchise. On the bright side, they were mad confident about the film, so hey, maybe this could be a banger. We could be chilling so far with how much they've been hyping it up, saying it's one of the greatest superhero films of all time. But hey, if you're gonna do an adaptation of the Flashpoint storyline, would you at least be willing to include the bare minimum of implementing Thomas Wayne Batman and even Reverse Flash as a center antagonist?
I'm gonna do my own thing.
I don't know about y'all, but I would have much rather seen Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne Batman instead of Michael Keaton as an older Bruce Wayne. Didn't hate him in the movie or anything, some of the action scenes were cool, I just think we lost tremendously with no proper Flashpoint Batman. Obviously they did this to bank off of the nostalgia hype train seen in these modern blockbusters these days, thinking it would drive ticket sales when they'd use him in every piece of promotional material. I wonder how that turned out for them. Also, how do you adapt the basic premise of Flashpoint without a single appearance or mention of Eobard Thawne? That's like doing the symbiote arc without Venom coming in afterwards. You'd see Thomas Wayne Batman make an appearance in mainstream DC Comics during the Button crossover in DC Rebirth between the Batman and Flash titles. Batman and Flash accidentally traveled to the Flashpoint timeline on the cosmic treadmill while trying to discover the mystery of Eobard Thawne's sudden death after he came into contact with the Button. This is due to the Button's connection with the Watchmen universe and Dr. Manhattan. It was believed that the Flashpoint timeline was destroyed ever since Barry went back in time to undo his actions that caused Flashpoint in the first place, but surprisingly it was never actually destroyed and continued on. When Flashpoint, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman agreed on wanting to take down Batman and sent their forces into Wayne Manor, that's when main Batman and Flash arrived in the Batcave. Main Batman and Flashpoint Batman would take the time to talk to one another about their lives as they worked together to take on the army of Amazons and Atlanteans. But whatever was holding the Flashpoint timeline together just said screw it, and the Flashpoint timeline starts to vanish from thin air. Later on you'd find out that it was Dr. Manhattan who preserved it in the first place. Bruce tries to convince his father to come with them, but Thomas pushes them into the cosmic treadmill, sacrificing himself, and he reveals that he doesn't want Bruce to be Batman and would understandably want him to find happiness and leave all the Batman stuff behind him. So it would seem as if DC has finally put Thomas Wayne Batman and the Flashpoint universe to rest, right? Y'all smell that? It kind of smells like some booty cheeks. Oh, it kind of smells like Tom King's Batman run. Now, Tom King is kind of a somewhat controversial writer amongst the fandom, to say the least. Personally, I don't have too much of an issue with some of the few little stories I've read with him as a writer. Superman Up in the Sky is a pretty good book, and I've heard stuff like The Human Target was solid. But on the flip side, you've got stuff like Heroes in Crisis. This event was dog dookie.
That is one big pile of shit.
Some of the other well-received titles include his Mr. Miracle book and even the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow book he wrote, which is getting a movie adaptation in James Gunn's DCU, with Millie Alcock starring as Supergirl herself in the film. He's also a part of the overall creative team alongside James Gunn for his universe, along with being credited as one of the writers for the upcoming Lantern show in the DCU. So yeah, he's had some accomplishments here and there. His Batman run sadly ain't one of them. For those of you unfamiliar with it, this is the same run that had the infamous Batman and Catwoman wedding that was marketed non-stop by DC, in which they spent several issues prior leading up to it, making it seem like it was a big thing, only for Selina to call it off at the last minute due to a conversation she had with her friend Holly, and coming to the realization that Bruce being happy would weaken his mission as Batman. She wrote a whole letter saying how even though she cared for Bruce, their shared happiness would kill Batman, no longer motivated by his pain and trauma, or just another way of saying that DC editorial had no desire in changing the status quo. Turns out, however, it was actually Bane's plan the whole time, as Holly was sent to influence Selina's decision in not marrying Batman. All of this was so that Bane could emotionally break Batman, step one in his multifaceted plan in breaking him for good. You see some of the other villains he's working with, like Riddler, Joker, the Ventriloquist, and
I know that ain't who I think it is.
See, this is where the downfall of DC's handling of Flashpoint Batman as a character really begins, in what I deem as straight character assassination. Due to some comic BS, Thomas Wayne escaped death yet again when the Flashpoint timeline was supposed to be destroyed for the second time. Apparently, he was saved by Reverse Flash at the last minute. It was his way of enacting revenge for Batman killing him at the end of the Flashpoint story by forcing him to watch his son Bruce become the thing he didn't want him to be, which is Batman. He goes out of his way to team up with Bane, as his desire in not wanting Bruce to continue as Batman was taken to such an extreme, he's willing to team up with a literal supervillain to emotionally break his own son so that he can stop being Batman. He just watches and allows Bane to beat the daylights out of Bruce in Wayne Manor. Then he takes Bruce all the way to a desert to convince him to finally settle down, and even brought the corpse of Martha Wayne as he was in pursuit of one of the Lazarus pits so that he could go home and rest as a family.
This nigga is crazy.
By the time they both got down to the pit, they end up having a pretty brutal fight, with Bruce revealing that he hid his mother's body somewhere in the desert, as he knew Thomas would be on some BS timing. In the City of Bane arc, Bane and a bunch of other villains took control of the city and placed a mandate that if any Bat family member were to step foot in Gotham City, Alfred dies. Damian ignored this warning entirely and decided to go after Flashpoint Batman himself. Thomas Wayne Batman knocks out Damian, ties him to a chair in Wayne Manor, and forces him to watch as Bane snaps Alfred's neck, killing him in the process. And the crazy part is that to this day, nearly 5 years after this issue came out, Alfred is still dead in current DC Comics continuity. He hasn't been brought back. It wasn't a fake out death or anything. The GOAT Alfred Pennyworth deadass got a hold, and that punk Thomas Wayne let it all happen.
I need this motherfucker in hell. Stat, bro. I need him gone. The
rest of the Bat family were not happy when they learned what happened to Alfred, so they all collectively jumped Thomas Wayne in the Batcave. They had this man on the floor on his knees and everything. Once Cassandra Cain started throwing some hands, oh yeah, it was game over. You truly have to be built different to be able to simultaneously take on Tim Drake Robin, Batgirl, Batwoman, Huntress, Damian Wayne Robin, Cassandra Cain, and Signal in a fight scenario. So it would seem he's down for the count. There's no way someone like him would be able to get out of this situation with some of the best hand-to-hand fighters DC has to offer. So he just gets up, stabs Tim Drake in the chest with one of Huntress's arrows. My god, Tim Drake cannot catch a break. Then he just proceeds to beat all of them up in one page with no explanation, enhancements, no gadgets, no nothing. He just fought all of them in one. Huh? My guy, Cassandra was right there. How in the hell does he even stand a chance? Now, I'm no power scaler and I don't usually care for stuff like this, but it was just lazily put together with not even a clever explanation on some, haha, I hacked into the Batcave system or something like that. It's just dumb. This kind of reminds me of when Tom King some years back put out a tweet of his personal ranking of the top 10 best fighters in the Bat family. This nigga really put Tim Drake dead last out of the 10 he listed.
What in the ass?
Tim Drake definitely isn't on the same tier in combat ability as, let's say, Dick or Cassandra, but putting Tim Drake below Duke Thomas, Stephanie Brown, and Catherine Cain is crazy work. But this is a list from an official DC Comics writer, so you have to take into consideration his decision making.
But given that it's a stupid ass decision, I've elected to ignore it.
Dude literally has training from the likes of Lady Shiva and Batman. The Tim Drake disrespect is crazy. Yeah, this list is just straight trash through and through. I'm sorry. Obviously, you're not gonna please everyone with rankings like this. Everyone has their own opinion on who's better, but some aspects of this list are just complete lunacy. You trying to tell me Helena Bertinelli and Batwoman are better fighters than Jason Todd?
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit?
Damian Wayne is number 4 while Jason Todd is this low on the list. Alright, bro. I mean, hey, if I'm tripping, let me know, because this ranking was kind of ass, bruh. Matter of fact, I guarantee most of y'all watching this video could probably cook up a better list, so let me know the proper top 10 fighters of the Bat family. Ain't it great to watch a character who had a whole arc in one of the most iconic modern DC stories, conveying his love for his son with him preferring he'd live a normal life, only to end up being an absolute psychopath, working with supervillains, beating up children, and being an accomplice in the death of his son's other father-like figure, to end up being locked up in Arkham Asylum with the rest of the Batman villain goons. It's like they wrote a completely different character than that of what we saw previously in Flashpoint and in the Button crossover event. I know they didn't stop there. They did some other nonsense with bringing him back in Justice League Incarnate, where he was seemingly killed by Darkseid, but surprise surprise, he survived and was instead sent back to the Flashpoint universe, which I thought was destroyed again.
Buddy, I'm tired.
Oh well, at least we can look solely at the Flashpoint comic and call it a day. There is no Psycho Thomas Wayne in Ba Sing Se. Only the Flashpoint story exists. But hey, I've ragged on him for a little bit in this video, but Tom King has done some pretty good stuff here and there, and can write well for some characters when he isn't going completely off the rails. I'm excited to see some of the things he's cooking up for the DCU. Just stay away from Batman.